Good morning. Hello, everyone. Good morning, people of YouTube, of Facebook. Hi, everyone. Welcome. Just having a quick squiz on the Facebook in case anybody's looking for links or whatever. The link is in our Facebook group, in our Pause Reflect group. So hope you can get on it there. Obviously, if you want to comment, you need to hop over to me live on YouTube, but I will see your comments in Facebook later on as well. So welcome, everyone. Good morning. Nice to be here with you again this Tuesday after a week's break. Last week I was camping with the husband and the dogs, and it was really, really fun. We had a great time, and it was a lovely break. So today, back in the office, and our topic today is how to respond when your dog has a meltdown. I'm sure something we've all experienced before. Hi, good morning, Tracy. Nice to see you here. Thank you for joining us. So yes, that's our topic today. My oil of choice is lavender this week. It's not a new one, but it's my absolute all-time favorite. This is my go-to oil for feel good, for feeling confident, for relaxing, for feeling. It gives me that sense of home. I've come home. I'm here. I get it. I feel safe. I feel protected. I feel cozy, loved, part of a family. That's my lavender emotion, and I use it often. And particularly if I've had a meltdown, if somebody in my family's had a meltdown, my dog's had a meltdown, I love to come back to lavender. That's my favorite. Come back to center oil. So yes, getting on to today's topic. So what I think I'd like to start with is asking you to do a brief exercise. Hopefully you're not driving. If you are, you can try this a bit later. But I want you to just think about an incident the last time your dog had a meltdown. All right. I just think, what was the situation? What happened in the situation? And if you could just let your mind just run through that example quickly, that experience that you had, and pick out some of the key points that you recognize on what actually unfolded. What did it look like? What did it look like for you? And when we do that, so as I'm talking, just think of that incident or that specific situation and think, what was my dog doing? What was I doing? How did it unfold? What went on? And when we play that mind movie back, and the sort of the highlights that jump out at us are generally what we saw or what we perceived in that interaction, which is the dog's behavior, which is the dog doing something, the dog barking, or the dog pulling towards the end of the leash to try and get to the other dog, or spinning circles on the leash, whatever that your dog does when they actually lose their when they just lose it, when they absolutely have a meltdown and lose it. And we are generally then focused on what that behavior is, and that will come up in that memory, that mind memory, that when you think about it, generally that's the first thing that comes up is, what was my dog doing? Or what was the other person doing, or the other dog doing, that triggered my dog? So we look at the trigger, we look at the dog's behavior, and that's what we seem to be focused on, because that's the big elephant in the room, right? This big thing going on. But what the real elephant in the room is the emotion underneath that. Because if we want to come away from those situations where we're not being triggered ourselves, because generally that's what's happening. It's not just the dog that's triggered. We are triggered as well. We're triggered by our dog's response. We're triggered emotionally. We may get a fright ourselves and feel uncomfortable and unsafe. We may be triggered ourselves into that fight flight. We may just feel really frustrated because we've been living with this dog for a long time who does this kind of thing. We may feel embarrassed by the person who's looking at us and feel, oh, this is so uncomfortable. I wish my dog wasn't doing this. I feel like I'm being stared at and judged, and oh, this is so embarrassing. All these things that come up, and that's what I'm aiming at here. Is the key is the underlying emotions. So when when this happens, as I said, we focused on the behavior, and I want you to start thinking about, I want you to focus on the emotion that's happening behind the behavior, both for yourself and for your dog. Because this is where you can start to tune in. This is where you can start to attune with your dogs and to start to resonate with them so that you can start to be empathetic, and you can step into that place of support as opposed to that place of reaction. Because if our dog is having a meltdown, the first thing we tend to do is go into what we call a no state. No, you can't do this. No, stop doing that. No, that I don't want this to happen. And when we move into that no state, we're just as reactive as our dogs, really. We are shutting down possibility. We are shutting down social engagement. And you've heard me talk a lot about this. When we want our dogs to co-regulate with us, when we want to be able to support them from that place of calm, we ourselves have to be in that social engagement system, as the polyvagal theory talks about, in that place of safety, calm, where we can avoid conflict or figure out how to resolve conflict from a social sense. So how do we figure this out? How do we negotiate? How can we, show body language, appeasement, and move away, for instance, as opposed to reacting? So if we want to be there, we cannot be in that no state of brain the same as our dogs, because by saying no, shush, this can't do this, stop, we're just doing the same. We're also moving ourselves away from the social engagement system. So it's really important to recognize what we are feeling and the emotions that are going on underneath that. So how do we get to that place? Because it's not always easy in that moment. So yes, even if you do have that initial no, can you learn to stop, to catch yourself in that no, take a breath and say, whew, what emotion is going on? What am I feeling in my body? And then look at your dog, because we talk often with our dogs, we talk about my dog is aroused, my dog is over aroused, which is a good scientific label to say, because it is a state of arousal. But I want you to try and guess what's happening, what your dog might be feeling underneath. Is it frustration? Is it anger? Is it fear? Is it anxiety? What is going on? Try to figure out what your dog may be feeling underneath. Now, you don't always have to get it right. This is why scientists like to say, well, we don't know what's going on underneath, so let's just call it arousal, which is a true sense, but we're not going to really be able to tap in and empathize with our dogs if we don't really know what that arousal means. What does that arousal mean to your dog? So try and tap into, what do you think my dog is feeling? Is it frustration because they want to go and say hello to that other dog, but they are too boundy and too, big and bouncy, and they don't have emotional intelligence or good social skills? Or are they really just angry dogs because for years and years and years, they haven't been heard by their person? They've been given that no, stop, whatever. So they also feel angry because each time they see a dog, their person gets mad at them. And these situations for a long time have been very frustrating. So maybe your dog is frustrated and angry. Maybe they're anxious. Maybe they're really anxious because they just don't like dogs coming into their space. They just don't like people. They just don't like loud noises. All of those things, they're feeling really, really uncomfortable. So if we can start to tap into the emotion, what is your dog feeling underneath there? What's going on for them? Straight away, it's helping our minds to come out of that state, that no reactive state, and come back into a state of, okay, how can I be the best support for my dog in this situation? It could mean that you need to create more distance. It could mean, I realize that this is too close for my dog. Let me see if I can give some distance. So you may then in that situation want to get your dog's attention. You may step a little bit in front of them, try to get a little bit of eye contact. Hey, I'm here. Do you want to come with me over this way? Can we move? Or you might want to move your dog with you and move to another, out, going another direction. You might realize that your dog is really frustrated because he really wants to go and say hello to that dog. And in the moment, we can't because that dog's on lead and the person said, no, don't come any closer. And you know that your dog possibly wouldn't handle the situation very well. You could say, all right, he's really frustrated now. What would help him to overcome that frustration? Can I turn around and say, let's go jog in the other direction? Come on, let's go and play. Let's go and jog. Let's go and do something fun and active because I know you want to play with that dog, but that dog doesn't want to play. So I'll play with you. Come over here. Let's go and play. So if you can tap into the emotion of what your dog is doing underneath, you may be able to help them through that by giving them a strategy of how to cope with that better. So is it fear? Is it anger? Is it frustration? What can you do that aligns with that dog's emotion at that time to help them through that process? So I think that's quite important for us to remember that the co-regulation is not just all about being calm, centered, grounded, zen, because sometimes that's not what your dog needs. Let's take a human example, for instance. If you are really angry at something that's happened, I don't know, your Amazon delivery didn't come on time, and then it was something you really needed and you were waiting and you got on the phone, you got on the internet, you eventually found the parcel, but it arrived and it was broken or it was damaged and you're really now furious and you want to flip your lid, and you do flip your lid because you're so angry, and somebody comes up to you and says, Sue, be calm, it's okay, everything's all right. No, it's not damn all right. I was waiting for this parcel and it really meant a lot to me. So sometimes just a really calm, grounded center doesn't always help in those situations because it's not going to alleviate my stress, my reaction. So sometimes you need to say, I get it. You're really, really angry. I can see that. I can see that you're really angry. And you know what? I agree. I agree. I would have been angry in that situation too. So let's do something about it. Let's find a solution. Let's find a resolution of how we can sort this out. So giving, just acknowledging what that person or that dog is feeling in the moment alone is a big help. I get it. I get that you're really mad and I understand why. This situation is really difficult for you. And I think I would be the same. I think I would also be the same with that. Let me see how I can step in and help you in some way. So that's another way of, dealing with it. If for instance, you knew, and this happens really, really often, is that your dog goes bark, 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 and then the other dog goes past, and then they go, and they carry on sniffing, and they get over it. It's really just a momentary reaction. It's not like a huge thing that's going to, get your dog stress level up for hours afterwards or whatever. It's just because it's become a habit, a habitual way of responding in that situation, that they really are, just go away, make sure you keep your distance from me. And when that dog passes, they kind of just go back to normal. In that situation, I would like to check your own reactions again. Can you feel that discomfort of your dog barking without it triggering you? Can you feel that discomfort of your dog saying, give me space, move away, and you feel okay with that, um, without it making you feel embarrassed or judged or anything else? Can you support your dog through that by just being there and saying, whew, I can see this is difficult for you. This is a time where you can just play with your zen and stand in that space and say, okay, I get it. Let's just breathe because I know in 60 seconds this will be over and we can move on. And then you can say, right, how could I have given my dog more space in that situation? Can I have moved them away so that it's not so difficult, so that that space barrier for them does feel more comfortable? And obviously, people, I'm talking about these situations where your dog is in a situation that you cannot avoid, that your dog is having a meltdown. But we know that we have to try and avoid these situations as best as possible. Okay, this goes without saying, that we choose our walks carefully. We choose our walks where we know it's going to be a happy place for our dogs, that we're going to feel safe, and we may, if we have a reactive dog, that we're not going to have all those encounters that are going to trigger them. or we may choose a certain time of the day, a certain environment, or when your dog is feeling good. But these meltdowns I'm talking about are the out of the ordinary things where you can't avoid the situation, or that particular day you or your dog is just not able to handle the stress for whatever reason, because there's other stuff going on for you or your dog. So it's just a reminder that these are, in circumstances that it's really got to do with situations that you can't avoid. So yeah, so that's. Let me just see if I've got written anything else down here. Yeah, so that last one, as I said, just allow that cycle to finish, allow that sort of emotional outburst to finish for your dog, and say, okay, I get this is really hard for you. Next time, I'm going to give you a choice to be further away, or I'm going to give you a choice to maybe stand in front of you and say to you, can you pay your attention to me? If that's too hard for you, can you do a little sniffari on the grass here? Let me put some treats down for you. Can you sniff? Can you put your nose down there? Does that feel more comfortable for you? Some dogs need to keep focus on that other dog, because it's important for them to watch that other dog go out of their sight, so that they can then know that the danger has gone. And that's okay, just as long as you can be okay with that, and not, sit with that and not feel uncomfortable about it. Let them go past, and then let them go and sniff where the other dog was, and say, here's some information about that other dog that you may like to sniff, and get all the sense about that other dog, get that information from the dog. So it's important to do what's right for your dog. There's not as always, there's never a clear cut, what do I do? But I think for us, for the most important is to recognize the emotions that are going on underneath that situation, both from our side and from our dog's side, to try and tap into that and actually feel it. Wow, my dog is feeling really frustrated in this situation. I can feel that frustration. It's really hard for him. Because once we started tuning to what they're feeling, we can now help to bring them into that new state. We can help them to come with us into a state of more regulation, or we can offer them an action to take in that moment that may be different from what they're doing right now. So let me just see if there was anything else I wanted to add there. Tracy, you here? Anybody else got any comments about that? How you feel about that? What comes up for you when you think about the emotions of what your dog might be feeling underneath there? What is their arousal all about? And how would you, if you were having that same emotion yourself, what action would you like to take at that moment in order for you to feel a bit better? And sometimes it might even be just flipping your lid for a short time to get rid of that emotion. But we can do that in other ways as well. We can help our dogs to run, jump, play, do something else, can also get rid of that emotion in some way. But also just acknowledging that sometimes it really is hard, and sometimes an outburst, a loud bark fest or something is important for that emotion to come up and come out. For our dogs and ourselves. We're only human, and to bottle it up and to push it down is also not the best thing in the world. It can, it's going to come out later, or it's going to sit in our cells and do stuff there which we don't want it to do. So don't see your dog's meltdown as always negative. It's not something that's negative that should be stopped, should be shut down, should be ever. Again, it's always communication to us. It's just an expression of their emotion, and sometimes they just need to feel heard. Because if they feel heard, maybe you'll get the idea more, you'll get the information more and more. This is really hard for my dog. I really need to do something to support him in a better way. And that may be to change my walks. That may be to change the time of the day. That may be to change what we do on our walks, or what activities we choose to do with our dogs. So really important information for us, and not always to just stop what they're doing, but really listen with all your senses. And this is okay. So that's a great exercise to finish off with then. That first exercise that we came in with, which was to think of that experience that you had with your dog, that to replay that little meltdown in your head and see how we normally as humans focus on the behavior, we focus on the other person, the other dog, the trigger, our response, our what we were angry or frustrated or whatever. We're focusing on all this outward stuff. And a great exercise is should your dog have a meltdown, when you get home or when you've moved away from the danger and everything's settled again, excuse me, when everything's a bit more settled and calm, you can try to replay that incident and start to think of, wow, what were the emotions going on underneath there? How did it make me feel? What sensations did I feel in my body when that happened? My heart was racing. I got sweaty palms. I got a flush. I got really flushed very quickly, hot flush. Um, my legs felt a little bit like jelly, or what actually physically happened in you? And again, you can think, what physically happened in my dog's body? Was it the same emotion that we were feeling? Was it slightly different? Was mine a sort of a fight flight and his was a shutdown, or vice versa? Was his in a fight flight and I was in a shutdown? What was the emotions going on there? Because the more we can tap in and identify what's going on, the easier it is for us to acknowledge, be aware, and to change that going forward. So, even if you do really flip out to we have sometimes we also lose it and we say, this is really irritating. I'm feeling so frustrated. I got a big fright when you did that. I wasn't expecting you to react that way. And so we go into that no sort of state of mind. But these exercises that we can do outside of those events will help us inside the event to eventually say, oh, wow, I just lost it. I'm really sorry. Okay, phew, breathe, listen. Okay, I'm listening to my dog. Yes, he's barking. Can I feel it? Yes, it's uncomfortable, but I can be here to support him. I can see or I can feel he's really frustrated or he's angry or whatever it is. What action can I try to help to support him in this particular moment? And then again, afterwards, remember to recap that situation. What could I have done differently? How did it feel? What else could I try next time? And very importantly, what I often talk about is repairing ruptures. So if you have had a meltdown with your dog, so if you did get angry at them, if you did shout at them and ask them to stop or shush or whatever, and you also went into that reactive state, it's really, really important to repair that rupture with your dog afterwards and say, I know it's words, but words have energy and they have intention, they have emotion with them. Your dog will get it. And just say, I'm sorry, what I did was not a very good role model by flipping my lid as well, by losing the plot as well. I know I wasn't the best role model for you, but I'm sorry. You know, I'm not good at this. I'm still learning. I'm still trying. We're learning together. And I'm really grateful that you give me information with your behavior. I really want to try and tap in more into your emotions and feel what's going on for you so that I can come from that place of meeting you, attuning with where you are, and then helping you to move into a different state. So have that conversation with your dog. Put your hands on them, love them, and just get that connection getting going again. Because that kind of attunement connection, repairing ruptures, is really what's going to build and strengthen your connection going forward, which is really, really going to be helpful as you learn more and more how to co-regulate with your dog, how to move through these emotions, how to eventually put the brake on these emotions and to change them altogether. So that's my 2 cents worth for our Coffee and Chat Tuesday. I see Tracy's put some comments here. I agree that identifying the emotion is so important on deciding how to respond in the best way. Yes, because if we think our dogs are really afraid, but actually they're really frustrated because they want to go and see another dog, we could take a wrong action for them. We could say, "Oh, try to calm you. Don't try to calm me. I just want to go and play." So if we're not tapped into and attuned to the correct emotion, then we're not able to support them with what they need at that time. Um, Sometimes dog gets frustrated with not getting to greet other dogs, and other times she wants them to stay away. I found that I can get a sense of the other dog and how she's going to feel about it. Yes. So Tracy, that's beautiful for two reasons. A, because you've noticed that Star can have two different emotions in two different situations. It's not always the same, which is really, really important. And the second one is I love that you are now tapping into the sense of the other dog so that you can see, I can see the signals that dog's doing. I can sense how that dog might be feeling and therefore triggering some kind of reaction in my own dog. So that's where we want to get to. We want to get to really being able to use our neuroception, as it were, tuning into other dogs, tuning into our dogs, tuning into ourselves, because that's the state where we can really start to say, interesting, curious. I can move into a state of learning here about myself, about my dog, about the other dog, and I can learn to respond in a whole new way, because now I'm coming from a place of openness, a place of learning, a place of social engagement, and it's a fun learning process. So beautiful that you're tapping into all of that. I think that realizing that we can just let it go, like our dogs do is incredibly helpful. They aren't looking to be perfect. Exactly. Well said, Tracy. We also lose our lid, flip our lid and lose the plot and have a meltdown, and so do our dogs sometime. And being okay, learning to feel that and be okay with that. It's often a good reflection on us, because how do we feel about ourselves when we lose our tempers? When we flip our lids, sometimes afterwards we feel really guilty that we did it. We feel uncomfortable. It doesn't feel good. But also having that empathy for ourselves and say, wow, I needed to have that. I needed to, explode. I needed to have that emotional outburst, because obviously the things that were going on or bringing me to that point were pretty important in my life to make me get to that. They were pretty, um, they were making big statements inside me in order for me to react that way. So what were those? What were those points that were really triggering me? Why were they triggering me? How can I look at that? Because again, when we can explore our own triggers and emotions, it's much easier for us to understand what our dogs are going through. And they can totally also just really have a bad day and just lose it. And for us to just be there and listen without getting caught up in that emotion is so, so important. So thank you. Thank you, Tracy, for being on with me today. Thank you for your lovely comments. I hope you got something out of this, sparked some memories. Practice that exercise of, tuning into the event. First, see what first comes up for you, and then try to dig a little bit deeper and see, even if you start to think, what else did I see in that event? What colors were there? Where was I? What environment was I in? Was it a windy day? Was it a sunny day? Was it a cloudy day? Because by doing that, we start broadening that unpicking, as it were, that actual event and getting to the core of what was really going on there, much rather than just focusing on the external behavior. So thank you again. Thank you, Tracy. And I'm wishing you all a wonderful Tuesday, a wonderful week, and we will see you back here next time. Take care then. Bye-bye.